Apologies for the delay. Just trying to figure this stuff out. I thought this camera was off, but it was just zoomed in. Anyhow, fire off any questions, and I guess let's get started. Now I know someone had a pre-live draw question about the musculature with the arm raised. I'm not sure how, in what direction raised, front, back, side, I don't know.
I think they were talking about the Thor that was posted a couple of days ago with the arm up, like he's on a cliff.
I remember that one. Well, in any case, let's kind of get to it. We're going to draw Thor, and I hope a lineup of some of the Asgardian gods. But let's do Thor with his... I always scribble to start when I'm drawing. He's going to be up here, and he's going to be yelling. His legs spread really wide and powerful. I'm sure all you guys have seen and read How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which I thought was a relatively brilliant book when I was a kid. I've had multiple copies, and I keep loaning them to people and never getting them back. But that's what happens when you've got a good book. So, my favorite Thor costume is the classic Thor. That's probably my favorites with most superhero costumes. I really like those early 60s and 70s versions in general. So we're just going to put a little mass on him. He's got that crazy cape, which kicks up high. His kind of dome helmet with the wings. Now they come in here, not like that. They come down. And then like this, okay. I'm going to forget to talk tonight because I'm super tired. And I never remember anyways. It's weird that I know his costume and I never really have drawn him. At least not in a comic.
Tom says it was his cherished gift from his mom and he still has it, but it's beat to hell.
What was?
I guess you mentioned the comic?
Hey Tom, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
We're all a little punchy today.
Yeah, it's been a long week and a long day. It's really hot. I don't know anybody else, but the humidity's killing me up here. I got a big air conditioner back there working overtime.
I'm not saying a lot because you lived for 20 years in Florida.
Yeah. With these legs spread and powerful. Well, let's get some questions because I'm actually running out of things to say.
Well, everybody says hello. They want to know how you're doing.
The delay is so weird. He's got these little wing things over his shoulders.
Oh, how to draw comics the Marvel way. That's what he was.
Ah, yes.
And then Batman says he loves your art, Mr. Sears.
Thank you very much. Batman?
Batman.
Batman. Oh, Batman. Ah. Don't make me do accents, people.
Please don't.
Nobody likes it. Alright, he's yelling. I don't know if this is visible. Can I see this pretty well? Wow. Somebody didn't turn off their phone.
I did not.
Of course, I didn't turn off mine, but I never get calls.
Roger Clemens asks, have you ever had an inker that A, completely murdered your pencils, and B, made them better than you could have imagined?
Yes and no. I did have someone murder my pencils, and they later profusely apologized for it. And I've pretty much known all my inkers going in, and I tend to pencil for them. So if anything, they've really captured what I expected. I guess that sounds egotistical, maybe, but that's what I think. Okay, there's that foot hack right there.
And then Tom
Remember? It works
asked,
every
who
time.
is your favorite Thor artist?
Stanley, inked by it was the early stuff. Vinnie Coletta. Love that stuff. Still have most of it. Of course, it's all ripped, tattered, and folded, and torn, and very well read. But I loved. I'm gonna move this arm. It's up. You can see I didn't plan well, so the hammer's just not gonna fit. So his arms gonna go a little different.
And then Beta Ray Benny says, hi Bart, Thor is looking good.
Hey Benny, thanks for coming and watching. Yeah, we'll go out here with his arm. That'll work. Then the hammer can sit right there, and there's sort of enough room for it. I always like these arm guards he had, wrist guards.
Looking good.
Oh, somebody's what? Good night, huh?
I had a delay on mine, so I don't know if you have a problem with that. A lag.
Oh, I don't have the lag on mine. That's weird. Busy week. You can see back on my wall, I got a bunch of pages up there for a project I'm working on. And I'm slow. Alright, here's that foot hack again. If you remember from last week in my shorts. Works every darn time. Of course, I drew this too low. So we'll fix that. There we go. That was my fault.
It's a group chat. Sorry.
That's right, Benny. It was a definite look. But I loved it. I still love it. That was magic to me. As a kid, I know a lot of people have a problem with Vinny, but not in that book.
Let's see. Tom asks, are there any shortcut hints on foreshortening the limbs?
You betcha. Let's say this is your shoulder right here, and let's say, for the sake of argument, there's your elbow, there's your wrist, and there's your hand. So your arm is essentially this long, right? Let's just use the wrist here. Now, as long as that shoulder stays in the same spot, which means it doesn't rise up with the collarbone or pop down with the collarbone, or anywhere you draw that arm has to be within this arc. Unless you're Mr. Fantastic and can stretch. So if the arm, let's say your hand's going to be here, and we go back to this joint, you go back around halfway and there's your elbow. So if you got your shoulder here, your arm here, your wrist here, your hand here, it's within the scope. And as long as you cut the distance relatively in half from the wrist, it'll fit and look correct. Does that help? I hope so. I hope that made sense.
And Jose says, good night, which I think means hello. Thompson says, awesome, thank you.
All right, cool. thing that's different about doing these live draws than when I normally draw is this light box right here. I almost never do one drawing like this and then start penciling it. I almost always turn on the light box, throw another sheet over, and fix mistakes I make, which there's always a ton. If you draw and don't make mistakes, I don't know what the heck's wrong with you, but you're not human. Because I make mistakes all the time. That's why I love this little bad boy. And that one. I had to get a new pencil because they get about that long and this eraser's all gone, and then I have gouged the paper with that metal edge, which really sucks. Inkers really don't like that. Now, normally I don't care if someone else is inking me, but when I'm inking myself, I can't stand when I do that. That was kind of a joke. I hope it came across. I think his legs have that pattern the same on his mallet. We're going to turn the mallet up a little bit, give it a little more perspective. And of course, he's got the ends that go like that on Mjolnir. So now you're going to see the bottom of it here, and it also has those weird things. Now let's work on this hand a little bit. It's going to go around. Knuckles are here, but they're going to pop out because they got to go around this darn thick, heavy mallet. The perspective, which I didn't do there at all. Let's try that again. Okay, his hand's going up this way. There's the knuckles, there's the thumb coming over. Then it's where the knees come up. Here, out, and over. Okay. And this one comes up, down, and over. Is there a question?
Roger asks, do you usually draw roughly, then tighten things up on another paper using a light box, or?
Yes. That's a horrible hand. I'm gonna work that out. Let's work out that hand here. Yeah, I usually have multiple sheets, and I usually use this copy paper to draw on exclusively until it needs to go on the final board for inking or penciling. And usually I almost always have 2 of these before anything gets on the board, but I've been known to have 10 or 12 different drawings of this figure before I get the one that I'm going to actually transfer to Bristol. If you've ever checked out the original art on my website, you can probably see multiples of the same pose where I've changed a little thing or tightened it a little more, done something like that. And I'm working hard at not just stopping and talking, but trying to draw while I talk, as was requested. So I hope that works. Again, I get nervous with these things and I sweat. Always working out this big hand because that's nothing there. And that's so bad I would take it out of the light box. Maybe that's what I'll do. Might as well. I don't know how many of you worked on the last live draw figure. I know I posted the blue line. I saw, how many did I see?
I didn't. There were a number of them.
I saw a few of them, and they look pretty good. So I hope. Now, if this hand was just in a fist, it's always easier. I've always struggled with wrapping the fingers around an object, especially perspective, because fingers are weird.
So,
good reference, though.
Benny asked, did you ever make a pitch for a Thor story?
I did not. Oh, yeah, I did, actually. Well, it was an Avengers story for, it was either Marvel Black and White or one of those. And it was a Hulk in the Avengers. And I ended up doing a few pages from it. I only have copies of 3 of the pages, I think, and the character designs I did for it, because it was a crazy involved, and then the book was canceled, so I never got to finish it. What I do when I'm breaking it down is I make it a little more organic. So I make a shape like this. So it's got this thing which the rib cage kind of sits in. Is that on? Okay, so oops, sorry, I got this on. Nobody can see that. There we go. So the rib cage kind of, it mimics this sweep of the rib cage here, and it's very organic. And I find that a little easier to play with than the strict structure of the box, but it fits right within the same proportions of that box, if you can see that. And then if you draw it at another angle, let's see what's good angle. Let's do a little down shot. So you can even start with the same blocking cube until you're comfortable drawing this amorphous shape. Is that the right word, amorphous? It is. Right? So you've got this box. Now we gotta kick it out a little bit because it's the hips. And then we put this swoop here, this here. There's the center. Now we've got the leg holes here. And this shape kind of swings around like this. Is that clear enough? I'm a little wonky. I guess it looks alright. Let's try it from the back and a little bit of an up shot. Here's the pelvis. I should have paid more attention in the figure class. This is the top up here, so we're going to kick it out here. Create the pelvis. Okay, then the leg holes. One's going to be there. The other's going to be there. And if this is the back, you got the butt coming around. To the crotch in front, and then that shape up there.
Could you slide that up a little bit?
Sorry.
It's behind the picture.
Oh, sorry. With the delay, I don't get that warning until too late. Sorry, so side of the pelvis, side. But there's nothing wrong with a straight blocking cube. Look for the pelvis.
And Tom asks, do you ever use Clip Studio Paint and their 3D closable figures?
I love Clip Studio Paint. That used to be Manga Pro or something. And I used that all the time back then. And then when it switched to Clip Studio, I definitely switched to use that. I tend to use that if I'm going to ink. I use it for different things. Sometimes I do whole jobs in it. Although I don't think I've ever done a whole job in the Clip. Maybe I did.
Do you
I think I did Maiden.
3D closable figures for it?
No, I've never used the 3D closable figures. But I understand their benefit. We use whatever tools we need. And like any tool, I would use it and change it. Because a tool is just a tool. Don't let it be a crutch. But it definitely can be helpful. Just like using, photos from magazines, which is and reference for buildings and different structures. And that's more of my sort of weirdly amorphic shaped structure, which works perfectly within the block and cube world.
Tom says he loves it. The figures are cool, but they don't seem to work for him.
Yeah, I think if you didn't start off drawing using the 3D figure help, I think you'll always find it kind of weird, unless you just make a decision to completely do that. But if you've been drawing your own figures for years, I would think it'd be tough to find comfort level using that, where it's basically posing figures that you haven't drawn. Now, if you just use it as reference, like any photo, um, then that's great. I think if you use it, and try to actually use the figures as they are, that might be a little harder for a lot of people. This has those weird cuts. All right, I'm kind of bored with this one. So I'm gonna get more paper. All right. I see somebody asked, do I always think of drawing the block and cube when I draw the pelvis? No, if I'm drawing a figure, let's say running, this isn't in any real energetic pose, but just a simple figure running, that's kind of how I would rough it out. And then if I had to, I would do my simple shape, if you can see that. And mostly these days I don't even do that, because I see that in my head.
Benny says, poor Thor, he was good.
Well, he didn't go anywhere.
Roger says he's glad to see you started a YouTube channel, and he knows you're trying to get used to it right now, but it'll be second nature soon. Also, thank you for all your inspiration.
Well, thank you, Roger. But if I have to, I go to that. And if I'm having real trouble drawing a figure, then I will go back to block and cube, because that's the building block that I learned. Third, light pole, third, other light pole, notch, low, things below. So, but I was kind of hoping to do a lineup too. So let me do some Thor figures. I might have to look for reference for these. Because if we've got Thor, right, and he's standing there cool, and notice I'm not doing all these measurements because I kind of see them in my head, and only when things look wrong do I tend to take the time to go back and work it out. But if you're starting to draw, you really need to figure, to work out all your proportions before you get going. If this is Thor, he's broad. And I've never been fully invested in every hero has to stand with his legs spread and super heroic at all times. I think you can do cool figures that stand more naturally.
Tom says his biggest weakness is women, both 2D and 3D. How do you draw them accurately?
Well, it's funny. I grew up just drawing heroes. I had read Conan and Tarzan and superhero comics. This was in the late '60s, and that's what I fell in love with was superhero comics. And as a kid, I wanted to draw Batman and Superman and Thor and Hulk and those kind of heroes. So when I was a kid, all I drew were men. And when I had to start drawing women, what I had to do, and this was professionally because I wasn't good at drawing women, and I really still don't think I'm very good at drawing women, but I would draw skinny men and then make them women. So that's how I taught myself to draw women, was by drawing skinny men and basically giving them breasts and thinner waists and wider hips.
But that's not how you draw them now.
No, that's not how I draw them now. Thor's got to be a little more massive in the chest, a little broader. Now we're looking like Thor. He's pretty wide. There we go. He's gotta have Mjolnir. Because as Benny knows, he isn't Thor without Mjolnir. And there's the knee here going this way. So the foot's going to go this way. The foot hack. This foot's going to go a little less. With the foot hack. Down and dirty. Now I don't like those legs at all.
Anthony says he loves your work and you're a legend. Benny says, what was your first professional work?
Well, my first professional work was for Marvel. And I saw a bunch of editors. Back in the time when I started, you could just show up at Marvel and knock on the door, and hopefully an editor was free that could bring you in. And my luck of the draw that day was a very young Michael Carlin. And he brought me in to the Marvel, behind the hallowed halls of Marvel, and took me around to a bunch of editors. And I saw, I think Jim Owsley was editing Spider-Man, and he really liked my samples, but he didn't have any Spider-Man work, so he said to check back with him in a couple months. And that was cool, but also depressing, because I would have loved to draw Spider-Man. Those legs aren't working. And I saw a couple other guys, or did I? And I saw Larry Hama. I don't think Carlin had anything for me. I don't know what he was editing. And I saw Larry Hama, and he gave me a 8-page story for a Marvel black and white book. I can't remember what it was called back then. Called The Iron Rose, and it was a story about two biker chicks. And it was a pretty dark story, pretty adult. And he said, all right, take this home and draw it. Bring me the pencils. So I did that, went home and drew the story. And I hated it. I had to draw motorcycles, chicks. I didn't know how to draw chicks, so I drew a bunch of men and made them women. And that sounds weird. And took it in and handed it off to Larry, and he threw it back across the desk at me and said, now go ink it. I said, I'm not an inker. And he said, you are now. So I took those horrible pages home and inked them, and hated every minute of it, and I thought they looked horrible. Do I have them scanned?
I think so, yes.
I'll have to put that up somewhere, maybe on my Patreon. But anyhow, and took them in, and he said, all right, great. And here's the second story. But somewhere in there, I did a Sector's mini comic, toy comic, for the toy line Sectors. It was those little, I think they were 3x5 or maybe 5x7 or something. Very tiny little comics that would sometimes come in toys. And I did a Sectors one, and then I had to do this second Iron Rose job, and I hated the first one so much that I think I spent 2 months penciling the 8 pages for the next Iron Rose book, and I mailed them in and essentially quit comics for a while and went and did illustration. I just could not draw fast enough to the quality I liked that I was comfortable doing comics. And that's how I got out of comics and started working for TSR and a few other companies. And that's what eventually led me to working for Hasbro, because I started doing illustrations for some of their projects, including G.I. Joe. And I did the first painting I did for Hasbro was some weird monster. What was that toy line? They had a monster toy line in the early 80s, and I can't think of what it was called. But I did this huge painting. I had like a month to do this huge painting of this weird fleshy monster. And it was due on a Thursday, I think. And on Sunday, before it was due, I ripped it up and started over because I hated it so much. And I worked pretty much constantly until Thursday morning. And then I finished the new painting and drove that up to Hasbro, which is about a 6-hour drive, I think.
Was it the Inhumanoids?
Something like that, maybe. Inhumanoids? It could be. Is that a Hasbro monster toy line in the 80s? And turned it in and thought, but it actually came out pretty good. I was pretty happy with the second version. First version was awful, but I really didn't know how to paint before taking those jobs, so I learned a lot on the job, and so that was cool. And then I went to G.I. Joe painting. So I don't know if that toy line was canceled or if they had everything they needed, but then I started painting G.I. Joes, and that led to me getting hired full time and designing the Cops toy line.
Do you know what character you're going to do next?
I think I'm going to do Odin.
Odin. So, McBatman asked if you could explain how to use the potato sack method.
Yes. And do that on this. Let's set a little Thor over here. Potato sack. If you guys aren't familiar, it's an animation trick. Not trick. You've got the side here, the top here, and the bottom here, which we can't really see. Now this would be where your legs come out, this would be where your shoulders come out. And sort of the center is almost your chest. See the rib cage would sit in there, and the hips would sit in there, like that. So if you're drawing a figure, and usually if you're going for an extreme twist or bend, which we often want our figures to do, say it's this, and let's say there's your action line, there's your shoulder line, there's your hip line, your potato sack, you know what, and let's make this one going this way and this one going this way, so it's really twisted. So it's going back and twisting back. So this shoulder's coming out that way, this one's going back that way, this one's going that way. Then you've got this leg coming this way, and this one going back that way. I hope that makes sense. So you got this extreme twist. And there's your little tags. You can't see that one because there's the top of the bag right here. We can't see it, but it's there. Here's the side of this one. We're just getting a little bit. Here's the side of this one. We're just getting a little bit. Can everybody see that twist? Does that make sense? I hope so.
It is visible, yes.
So we've got, now if we're going to set the rib cage in here, That's going to go like this. That's going to be the chest. Everybody see that rib cage? And then if we're doing the hips are going to be right in here, like this. So there's the side of the hips. There's that little curve I showed you somewhere. That's this right here. Is right here. We're only seeing, it's an upshot. We're only seeing a little bit. Then the crotch is here. The leg hole goes back here to the butt. The other one comes up here to the butt. Now the rib cage you've got up here goes like that. Let me put this on another piece of paper.
Joe says, "Hi Bart, it's Joe.
Hey Joe.
Amazing. Let's see you do what you do." And
Thanks, Joe.
Darmek says, "Good evening, all."
Good evening. Now, if you're going to put a leg coming out this way, it's going to be in perspective because we set up perspective, and that's a whole another can of worms. This leg's going that way. It's going to go in perspective down there. Then we've got to clarify this. Okay, and then we got the rib cage here, which is really violently twisted. Right? And then we've got to put a shoulder here, another shoulder here, which is mostly hidden, and this arm's going to come this way. This arm's going to go back that way. And then if we start, don't need that anymore. We start to pop muscle in. There's the serratus, there's that one pectoral? Yeah, that's what they're called. I always forget what muscles are called. And we've got the 8-pack, which is going to get crunched here, extend here. Does that make sense? I hope so. Ribs here, butt's kicking out there. Then we've got the oblique, the other oblique here, then the latissimus. I don't see much of that latissimus there, but there's the bicep, that little muscle, and the tricep. Here's the bicep. Well, this is going to be ridged here as it comes in to the latissimus, serratus. Here's that little muscle. Then we've got the tricep there. Probably won't see much of the shoulder muscles in that thing. Then come down here, got the crotch, we got the big muscle here coming forward. These big muscles coming forward, these sliding away. So I hope that helped. That's kind of how you do use the potato sack method. From that to that.
Says, "So when is the video version of Drawing Powerful Heroes going into production?"
That's an interesting question, Tom. I've been thinking about that for years, is taking each tutorial and making it a video. So I don't know. It's a lot of work and I'm slow, so we'll see. All right. Hopefully soon. All right, let's do Odin. I don't really like that straight on you. Let's get him kind of lined up here. So Odin, I see him as bigger than Thor. He's blocky, and he's got thick legs, big chest, and sort of that big manly belly, big shoulders and arms. This might be too big for Odin, but we'll see. I'm going to do arms crossed because he's Odin, he can do what he wants. He's got a beard. I don't really know his costume. He's got a beard, bushy eyebrows. He's very thick. There's not leaving room for feet. That's what happens when you don't plan. There's not room for hammers and feet. This head might be a little too big. It's not that much bigger. So let's scale that down a little. Mustache. Okay, that's a little better.
Is that the right name?
Huh? That's one of them. Looks like he's got Loki horns on there.
I did.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm not gonna go crazy because we don't have much time left.
So, John Marshall says, "Hey Bart, who or what inspires you to draw on days when you're just not feeling up to it?"
That's a tough one. And truth be told, I'm not really fond of drawing. So it's always a mental exercise to get in here and do it, and I fail occasionally. So what inspires me usually is a movie or a TV show. I pop something on my TV and I start watching it, start scribbling, and before long, I'm kind of into what I'm doing and not paying too much attention to the TV. Although I always tend to pay attention to the TV. But generally, it's the need to do it is what inspires me. And then once I start drawing and force myself to sit here and pump some stuff out, I usually do, stuff I'm not really happy with first, and then start loosening up and getting more into what I'm doing, and start doing some better stuff or stuff I'm more happy with. And once I'm more happy with what I'm drawing, it tends to go a little easier, and then it's easier to sit back down and finish it off as the day progresses. So here, he's really thick. Oh.
So Joe says, "Bart, I've seen you draw a figure and could not make heads or tails out of it, and then you would pick it up, turn the drawing 180 degrees, and then you would make a few strokes, and the image would appear and leap off the page and punch me in the face. What's that technique called? Is that something you created?"
I wish I could do that on command, but
I would ask how much wine was involved.
there's been quite a bit of wine in that one. I think that's just probably comes from more scribbling and trying to get something done quickly. I think is all that is, and honestly, sometimes I look down and I don't know what the heck I'm doing either, and then it's like, oh.
Darmek says, "Would you have a show with other artists at some point? It'd be funny to see you show Andy Smith who's boss in comics."
Jesus. Yes, I would do shows with other guys. I'm not sure quite how I do that, but I'm not opposed to it. I did guest on Dave Finch's show once, which was a lot of fun. I'm not quite sure how I'd work that out here. And I've been on Andy's show. I don't know if I've ever drawn on Andy's show though. I don't know that there's.
You did something that someone auctioned or bid on or something.
I think I just did an auction or something.
Oh, okay. So, but you've been on Andy's show.
Yeah, I've been on Andy's show. And so those would be my roughs for Thor and Odin in this lineup, and I got room for one more.
Benny says Odin never wears the same outfit twice. Roger asks
or nobody draws it the same twice.
Benny asks, Roger asks, have you ever drawn Pup? I'm pretty sure I remember you did a story with Sasquatch.
I did a Sabretooth miniseries, which co-starred Sasquatch and Wendigo, but Puck was not in it. So I don't think I've ever drawn Puck. I may have done a headshot of him once, but I'm not even certain of that.
Benny votes for Loki as the third figure.
Loki. All right, and Loki's skinny, and he's going to be smaller than these guys. guys.
McBatman says, Mr. Sears, could you explain how to draw heads and faces from different angles?
I will try to do that next. Let's get a little Loki in here.
Yeah, we've only got about 8 minutes left here, so.
So Loki. He's always up to something. The trickster. So he's going to stand a little more closely. I'm not going to give him super broad shoulders. So about that's good. And he's got his hand back and he's hiding a little dagger here. This is Loki. Now there would be his rib cage. Let's get a little structure in there. This would be his hips. Handed that way. Shoulders that way. Usually for people to be standing and not falling or not in motion, not actually moving in the comic, you need that opposing shoulders and hips for balance. So there's his hips, rib cage, chest, elbow, wrist. He's got one hand kind of down. Maybe he's starting a little spell here. This hand's hiding a little dagger. See, Loki, does Loki have... No, he's got a horned helmet with crazy horns like that. He's got a thinner face, a thinner, longer nose.
Joe asks if a song has ever inspired you to draw a hero.
Song.
You like soundtracks?
I do. I listen to movie soundtracks often when I draw, or often when I write. But I don't think so. I don't think a sound has ever inspired me to draw. It's inspired me to write, or helped me focus when I write, but not when I draw.
Tom says Hemdall.
Yeah, he's a good one.
And Tom also says an hour is not long enough.
You must be young, Tom. Or have more energy than I do. There's a Loki. I'm not sure what the heck his costume looks like. I would have to research that. But how's that line up for these gods of Asgard? Let's see if I can. Trying to get it over my head.
Darm X says 2 hours is good, like Dave Finch.
Finch is a younger man than I am. We'll get there. We'll get there. Because one day, I mean, would you guys like to see me do a drawing from start to finish? Would that be cool? Because usually when I plan these, I really don't plan on getting into rendering or lighting or anything. At least not yet. But there's Loki. That arm's too big. We gotta reduce a little bit of that. That's a little better. It can be sort of broad at the chest, but not quite as massive as these other boys.
Okay, so McBatman says, Mr. Sears, any advice on how to break into the comics industry?
Draw some more and draw it again. These days, with the internet, I think it's much different than when I broke in. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if any companies have offices anymore.
Sort of the Loki image.
Oh yeah, that's the one with horns that go like that. I forgot about that. Those are cool. Maybe that's more Loki than those. I don't know.
And then, so, any advice about breaking into the industry?
Is you have to draw, in my opinion, you have to draw story pages. You have to draw sequences of art, and then you have to post them online on, your social media, on your website. I don't know if you can post on DC or Marvel or Dark Horse or Images streams, social media, but you need to do at least I always say at least 5 pages of continuity, some story that hopefully you didn't write because you probably are not a writer. I've posted some scripts, haven't I?
Yes, but we haven't done any recently, so maybe we should
post
a script for people to just practice on?
I'll try to. Well, Michelle will try to remind me to post some scripts so people have stuff to practice of. I don't know how accessible scripts are, but hopefully it's one that you haven't seen um, drawn professionally, and um, you need to do the storytelling of those 5 or 6 pages so that people can see that you can draw. In comics, you have to be able to draw perspective. You have to be able to draw animals. You have to be able to draw people. You have to be able to draw spaceships. You have to be able to draw anything anyone can imagine, and that should be reflected in the pages you do. But mostly in those pages, um, you should have some, superheroes or horror aspects, whatever kind of, stories you want to do. But there should be some real elements too. There should be some recognizable buildings, street scene with cars, an office scene inside a house, just so that an editor can look at it and tell that you can draw, um, you know, whatever is required, and everything isn't fantastical, so you have to draw some real stuff.
So for expediency, I'm just everyone agrees that they would love to see you start to finish on a drawing.
Okay.
And then Tom would love to see you do a scripted sequential page.
Oh, that's cool.
And how to draw an impactful splash page, hint, hint, hint. Drawing. Powerful Heroes Volume number 3. And let's see, what have I missed? Joe would like to know what your favorite movie soundtrack is. And Benny thinks the Asgardians are fabulous.
Thank you, Benny. And Joe, one of my favorite soundtracks I listen to most often when I write is Spartacus from the Kirk Douglas movie. I find that really gets me going. The soundtrack to Conan, although I'm having a very hard time finding the full soundtrack to Conan online anywhere. So if anybody knows, let me know. That would be awesome. And this is a heads moving.
Yes, different angles for the heads. Like how do you draw it with different angles?
So this isn't a straight on head, it's a little turned. Let me see if I can figure out exactly how to answer this. Brow, face, front of the face is here, side of the head's here, ear, you might see a little of that ear. But if you want to turn the head to an angle, I usually fall back to the Loomis method. Andrew Loomis, if you aren't familiar with him, seek out his books. Let's say we're going to look up at a head. So in the Loomis method, it's all about the ball and cutting off the sides of the head. So this would be the front. This would be the brow line. Go back. That's where your ear is going to go. But then we got to drop the front of the face down here. And it comes right off that ellipse we made. Top of the head, bottom of the bald head, and that's going to be the front of the face, the front line. So now we have to find the proportions. And they're going to come off this side of the ball. So that's going to be your nose. Your eyes are going to be on the secondary line. Then this distance here is going to be mirrored here. That's going to be your chin. It's going to come around. Right, so we've got the back of the head, the jaw. We're going to see a little of the under jaw unless the mouth is open. The front of the face, mouth's going to be here, nose, eyes, brow. I hope that makes sense. But the eyes set back from the head. So they're going to do that, and that's going to change this shape right there. Okay, so if the front of your face is here, out to the chin, there. Okay, so that's going to be your bottom of your eyes here. Does that make sense to everyone? The brow here. So we're looking up at it. So now the nose has to come up. But the nose doesn't come all the way back to the center line of your face like your eyes are on the flat of your face. The nose starts above it. So it's going to overlap that eye there. Is that visible?
Mm-hmm.
And then triangulate the bottom of your nose. There's other features, but forehead. And now your lips aren't going to sit flat on your face. They're going to protrude too. The bottom of your nose, they're going to come out. Then you got your mouth barrel, which is this whole thing. That's your top lip. Your bottom lip doesn't come out as much, but just a little bit. But then that's going to set back to the chin. So that's going to change this outside angle too. So now you've got this. And now the chin is right there. Then you've got your cheekbone, your, what is it, jowls? I don't know. And your jaw. And then let's say your face is looking up, so your head.
So Roger says he's pretty sure the full soundtrack is on YouTube, but he's not sure if it's the Barbarian or Destroyer.
Cool.
Tom says on a different track, can you share the best ways to run a Kickstarter campaign? And Betty thinks it's magic that you guys make characters' faces look consistent. Magic.
That's the tough part. Consistency in making characters look the same. That's something I still struggle with. And unless the character is really caricatured, I've been trying to do more caricatured, more distinctive. I guess I've always tried to do distinctive faces, thinking back to Justice League. And but that's the toughest part, is making them look consistent. So that's kind of an upshot. Now if you want to do a downshot, it's just the opposite. You start with the sphere, the center lines, then you got to cut off the head, because the head isn't exactly round. You got to put the center line straight down. Now you've got the top line here. So there's the top of the head. Half of that way gives you the measurement to go down to the nose and then to the mouth.
Jarmak says you don't want to have same face syndrome.
Nope.
So are you going to answer Tom's question about how to run a successful Kickstarter?
He said on a different stream. He said on a different stream. Oh, on a different track. Kickstarters. Kickstarters are tough. There's no surefire way to make them successful. I wish there was. I think the best thing you can do is build a social media platform so that you have people already interested in what you're doing, and build it for as long as you can. I've heard people say to do a Kickstarter, you want at least 3,000 people on, your social media. And I've heard them say you want at least 1,000 people on your pre-launch page for your Kickstarter. And those are all great ideas, but a lot harder to actually do than to say. All right, so there's your forehead. They're just a lot of work, and you have to work pre-launch pretty much every day promoting them, and during the campaign it gets even harder. All right, so we got our brow. Now we know the eyes set back as the brow dips back. So the eyes are actually going to be back here. You might not even see that one. They're back under the brow. Then the nose cuts in and cuts out from under the brow. Your cheekbones come out from under the brow. The mouth still pops up, but you're not going to see much of the upper lip. You're going to see more of the lower lip. But remember, that comes out and then cuts back, and then comes out again for the chin. So you're going to get sort of a look like this. Nostrils. And your neck. Your body. Does that help? I hope. Who was it that asked?
I believe it was Roger. Let me double check that.
Was it
It was
McBatman?
McBatman.
McBatman. Does that help, Batman? I hope it does. So.
Awesome. So it, let's see here. It is
Probably some good hacks I gotta figure out, or I gotta remember for facial drawing. So we've got that one. We've got a bit of a lineup of Asgardians, and then we've got more Thor in action and some torso stuff. I hope that was helpful.
Mick Batman says yes, thank you.
Okay, cool.
So what is your next? What are you doing next? Big Lick?
Yeah, I've got Big Lick next weekend,
And the weekend after is
which is in Virginia. Then I've got a small con in Pennsylvania. What's that called?
Wellsboro.
Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. And then I believe the Saturday night after that, we'll be back here to draw something a little special. And I will have guests, I'm pretty sure,
Yes.
next time.
Yes. They just won't be drawing.
They won't be drawing, they'll be talking. But it's for, let's see what I got here that I can show. Oh, yeah. We're going to be talking about and drawing Sugar Bomb. So this is a splash page from the issue I'm doing. It's a project created by David Hedgecock, and hopefully he and his writing partner Chase will be guests next time as I draw Sugar Bomb. And maybe we'll take that one from start to at least finish pencils. So thanks for watching. I hope everybody had fun, and follow me on YouTube and Instagram and Blue Sky. It's all Bart Sears Art. And I do have a Patreon called Bart Sears Art, so check it out if you like. You can join for free. And that's it. So long, everybody. Have a good night.